Welcome back to TV5 News at 9. It's time now for Education Matters. You're in for a real treat. We have Dr. Craig Douglas again with us this morning. Thank you so much, Dr. Douglas, for joining us.
Good morning.
It is great to see you. Dr. Douglas is here, so you guys, please grab a pen, grab some paper, because the information he's going to give you today, you're going to want to review it, go back and look at it at a later date. But today we are talking about testing and count day, which look a lot different now due to this pandemic. So what changes have schools made, Dr. Douglas?
Huge, just huge and significant and very progressive changes, Colette. With the pandemic, you know, there's got to be adjustments and flexibility in these rules. First, testing. In the return to school legislation, it was mandated that benchmark tests be given for students in lower elementary through middle school, grades K through 8. And these benchmarks could come from a list of approved testing resources that the state gave schools, and the request was to administer them during the first 9 weeks of school. So it's likely some of the kiddos have been facing these benchmark tests already.
Yes, my kids have already, Dr. Douglas. Yeah, that's for sure.
And so parents, it's important to know what your role is in this testing environment. Are they online? Are they face-to-face? Some blended source? It's basically in reading and math. So how do you focus on those areas? The purpose of these tests are to measure the learning that's occurred or perhaps lagged during the pandemic since March. For older students, the PSAT and SAT tests are now being administered. Normally they're given in the spring. There was a pause button hit on that last spring with the pandemic. So now schools are catching up on both of these instruments. In fact, the SAT was given last week and is scheduled to be given again in October.
Are there some changes with that, Dr. Douglas, with the giving those tests now?
Yeah, it's a challenge for schools and for parents because of the need for confidentiality and the testing environment. I'm not sure if they're online or face-to-face. It probably depends on whether the schools are back face-to-face or not. The same with the PSAT, which is for younger students. Right. I think it's in 9th grade, but also can be offered to middle school students. So I would encourage parents to reach out to schools for specifics on the testing dates and the expectations for the testing environment. I mean, tests have always been hard, Colette, but in a pandemic, it's got to be even harder. And the support from parents and the flexibility, that's very, very important in my opinion.
How can parents help their kids to prepare for these tests, Dr. Douglas?
Number one, to try and stay calm and look at the big picture. I mean, kids who are facing these tests have been in school many, many years. Much of the content has been delivered over the course of this time. They're not going to, quote, forget it all. It will come to them. So being calm is the most important thing. And then the way to review will vary, but there are instruments available online to help prep. I often cite the Khan Academy. The Khan Academy is directly tied to the SAT instruments. Yes. And there are remediations for both reading and math that can be offered through the Khan Academy.
The Khan Academy is excellent. I've used that with my kids. I mean, they have great reviews just to keep them up to date on what's going on and to keep them reviewing the information they've already learned so they don't lose that.
Exactly. Yes. That recall is going to be so important. And then to shift, tomorrow is count day in the state of Michigan.
Oh, wow.
Count day has always been, it's kind of one of those rites of passage, goes way, way back in time. Early in my first superintendency, count day was a huge deal because that's how you were distributed funding from the state of Michigan. It has definitely shifted this year during the pandemic. It's a blended count that's based on last year's count and the count that is logged in tomorrow. So it's important that parents know how this count will occur. Again, Colette, not to be a broken record, but it's going to depend on whether the schools are face-to-face.
Okay.
I mean, if the schools are face-to-face, it's simply a matter of making sure the kid goes to school.
Right.
If they're online, then there are rules in terms of login expectations so the documentation can be followed up because funding is tied to the count.
So parents
So
need to make sure
even-
today, ahead of time, to make sure that they know how their child can be counted if they're doing virtual
Exactly.
learning.
And if the student is actually marked absent
Yes.
during count day, there's still ways that they can be counted.
Okay.
Parents just need to lock into what those rules are so they can help the school receive the funds they deserve.
That's great. Dr. Douglas, thank you so much for your valuable information. I have to take a moment to tell you, Dr. Douglas, that we really appreciate you during these uncertain times for you to come in to give the teachers, the educators, and parents like myself this information. It really has put our minds at ease. Thank you, and we do appreciate you, Dr. Douglas. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your praise, but right back at you. Your coverage has been instrumental in helping keep teachers, educators, parents, and students informed. So right back at you.
Thank you, Dr. Douglas, and we will see you again next week. Thank you so much.
Take care. Be well.
You as well, Dr. Douglas. If you'd like any more information about today's topic, check out the school source page on WNEM.com.